All right, welcome to this evening's presentation. I am happy to be here joining you to deliver something that is near and dear to my heart. One of the things that I did not mention or I forgot to mention was that I'm also a voiceover talent, which means that I voice commercials for radio stations, television stations, and even online. I also did not mention that I migrated in March of this year, and I'm currently residing in the Cayman Islands. So I am coming to you from the Cayman Islands. Since I have about 40 minutes to do this presentation, let's jump into it. I am going to be looking at the proper use of vocal mechanism, how to eliminate nasality, tension, and breathlessness, pitch, focus, resonance, and intonation, articulation and pronunciation, diction, reading aloud, and protocols for introduction. I would like to say that this presentation is very in-depth, and what is required for this presentation is a very in-depth topic. And so some of the information that you'll get, maybe it's going to be hard for you to process it, but I will be happy to make available the slides. And if anyone from this group is interested in getting vocal training or voice training, then you could let me know and something can be arranged, because it's a very crucial. I'm just going to be touching the surface tonight. Okay, so there are basically 4 stages in the speaking process, and that's the breathing or respiration stage, phonation stage, the resonation stage, and the articulation stage. Now, in order for speech to be produced, so you know you don't open your mouth and words just fly out of your mouth. You have different parts of your body which come together in and sometimes, because we speak naturally, if you're a person who vocalizes, what happens is that you're not even aware of the different elements in your body and your facial structure and in your diaphragm and your lung, which work to make speech possible. And that is why persons who pursue public speaking or radio broadcasting, or to generally speak at meetings, board meetings, presentations, introduction of speakers, etc., they have, if you're a professional at it, or as someone who is play the role of a master of ceremony, if you're a professional at it, you do not just go up and read cold, what we call it in broadcasting. You do some amount of voice and speech training, because it's important that you train yourself to deliver speech or anything that any speaking engagement that you're involved in order to be engaging. You have some persons who are comedic. There are some persons who are serious debaters, like in parliament the legislators do that. You have persons who have to deliver, like your lecturers and your teachers. And so you yourself would have to do presentation for various things. You're trying to convince a client, you're making a pitch. These are some of the things which are very crucial that goes into you being a convincing and engaging speaker. Practice and preparation. So you use your diaphragm, your lung, your trachea, your vocal cord, your soft and hard palate, your nasal cavity, your oral cavity, and your tongue and your pharyngeal cavity when you are speaking. Now, that little chart is there because if you're not clear about the biology of the human body, you can take a closer look and see how many areas of your mouth and throat and your lungs which goes into the effort of speaking every day. Now, why is this part of the process of learning voice and speech important? Because there are persons who have lazy tongue, shallow breathing or breath, and not strong enough lung to speak. You have to exercise both your jaw, your throat, holding your breath, inhaling and exhaling for you to pronounce word and speak carefully. Now, the breathing stage or the respiration stage of speaking We know that primarily breathing is concerned with maintaining life. If you stop your breath, you're not going to be able to breathe. But um, uh, the secondary purpose of breathing is actually assisting in vocalization. It consists of two phases, and I said earlier, inhalation and exhalation. And note the pronunciation of the H's in my word when I speak. In my words, they are very important. They're in the middle, or sometimes they're at the beginning or at the end. And we have to be very aware of our letters. Now, the lungs, as I said earlier, play a very important part. They serve as the reservoir for the air. So that means they hold the air. And what I learned is that you inhale 10% of your breath is inhaled, but you actually exhale 90% of your breath when you're speaking. We're not aware of it sometimes because of how we go about speaking actually and normally for years, but that is what happens. As you inhale, you fill your lungs comfortably in preparation for speaking. The diaphragm is also a very important part. Sometimes some persons they speak from their throat. It's they get and they start speaking, and sometimes they are out of breath. It affects their pitch, and it also affects their enunciation and pronunciation. So the diaphragm is a large sheet of muscle separating the chest cavity from the abdomen. So if you inhale and you feel where your rib cage is, how it swells up and then it goes back down, that is the area. So before I form a sentence or start speaking a sentence, I would normally and naturally take a big breath in, especially if I'm reading a commercial, for example, or speaking on air and on radio. I would do that deep breath, which is usually a silent breath. And that silent breath comes all the way from my diaphragm, from my lung, and I fill up my lung with air to get ready to exhale while I speak slowly and quietly. So it gives pressure to the breath stream. So if you take a deep breath, your chest automatically rises, and when you release it, it goes back or it deflates. Now, the next stage is the phonation stage. The phonation stage takes place when the voice is produced in speaking as the expiratory airstream from the lungs, and it goes through the trachea or the windpipe to the larynx. So what you have is the airstream coming from your lung. It goes up to your trachea or your windpipe and out through your larynx. The larynx is the principal organ of phonation. It's found at the top of the trachea, and it's also known as the Adam's apple. There are some mostly seen in males. When they speak, if they have a protruding Adam's apple, then you will see the movement, and that is where you call the larynx. Then we have the vocal cords, which we are very, very familiar with. This is a bundle of muscles and cartilages, and they open and close at varying degrees based on the wind that is passing through them. The trachea, also known as the windpipe, is a passageway for the air to be released coming up from the lungs. The resonation stage, the voice produced in phonation is weak. Take, for example, I open my mouth and I would say, ah. There is nothing behind it. It's just weak, but it becomes strong and rich when amplified and modified by human resonators. And the resonation process of voice amplification is the process of voice amplification and modification, where we would project our voice, we modify our voice, and those elements come from what we call resonators. The pharynx is a common passageway for air and food. So if you notice, sometimes you can't speak when you're swallowing. That's kind of impossible. So it's the common passageway for air and food, and it's located behind the nose and mouth and includes the cavity at the back of the tongue. And there's a nasal pharynx, the oral pharynx, and the laryngeal pharynx. We know the nose very much. And when we're speaking, sometimes we take the air in through our nose. You have the external and internal portions. You have the nostrils, the opening of the external nose, the nasal cavity, which is the internal nose, which is directly behind the external nose through which air passes on its way to the pharynx. Now, we spoke about resonators earlier. Now, we look at the upper part of the larynx, the oral cavity, the nasal cavity, and the pharynx. Do you realize how many different parts come together? How many different parts come together for us to make sound? It is very important that we pay attention to it. Then we have the articulation stage. Anyone can tell me, oh, well, it's on the screen. I was going to do the sliding, but anyway, I'll get to the question and answers later. The articulation occurs when the tone produced in the larynx is changed into specific sounds. And when we were much younger, just learning to speak, we were taught how to pronounce the letters of the alphabet. This is the result of movement of the articulators towards the points of articulation. The mouth, and we did mention earlier, there are so many parts in the mouth when we saw that diagram, the soft palate, the hard palate, and all of those things that come together. Divided into the vestibule and the oral cavity proper. Vestibule is felt by placing the tip of your tongue outside the mouth but inside the lips. And if you can just search for that in your mouth, take your tongue and you put it outside your teeth, but between your lips. When you're speaking, the teeth are important because that's how you make your TH sounds, right? The oral cavity is felt by retracting the tongue. So if you just pull in your tongue, you can feel your oral cavity, closing the jaws and moving. You can feel your tongue. If you close your mouth, your jaws, and you move your tongue around, you can feel your oral cavity. So the points of articulation, you use your upper lip to speak, your upper teeth, your upper alveolar ridge, your hard palate, and your soft palate. Now, we are not really cognizant or aware that we're using so many organs, but in order for us to be able to deliver speech clearly, in order for us to make the proper pronunciation, as I said earlier, all of these parts of the mouth and the face, the throat, and the lung all together. In a practical application, you take a deep breath before you speak. And so you see the picture of the lung right here. You calm yourself down, even deep breathing before if you have nervousness. You steady yourself by taking deep breath to calm yourself down before you start speaking. You fill your lung with air, and then you start the speaking process. There are persons who would have a presentation to make before a large crowd, and the first thing they start doing is running out of breath because of nervousness. Their heart starts palpitating, they get nervous, and what happens is that they run out of breath. And one way, as a speaker or a public speaker, you have to know how to control your breathing. Do your breathing exercise to calm yourself. Do your breathing exercise to hold a sentence together and deliver your speech. We articulate words with our mouth. We pronounce each syllable individually. We take it very slowly at first until each sound is clear and distinct. If you notice that if you're speaking, sometimes you break up the words, and if I'm saying amazing, that sounds like 3 words. So amazing does not fly out of your mouth in just one word. So you use to articulate, you pronounce each syllable when you're speaking to break up the words, so you're pronouncing the words properly and you're articulating them in a clear manner. Okay, and so we move on to the next topic, which is how to eliminate nasality, tension, and breathlessness. Nasality is when sounds are produced, they produce sound waves that vibrate in your nasal cavity. Sometimes you hear a person speaking and they're very, what do you say, they're very nasal. Sometimes it is how they speak at that level, but sometimes it's a matter of maybe an illness, allergy, or something, then you go nasal. And if when you're speaking and you can feel the buzzing vibration at the bridge of your nose when you put your finger there, that is what we call nasality. Nasality will give speakers trouble in pronouncing words properly with INGs. To eliminate nasality, and I have to say, because of how the presentation is done, if I were in person, I would give you several exercises, because each of these tip comes with some sort of exercise that you can do if you have any of these problems. So you start a yawn, for example. If you having your nasal congestion, or you are suffering from nasality, with your lips formed like you're making a U sound, like ah. And by the way, vocal exercises are not cute, they're not pretty. Okay, you have to extend yourself. And if we have any singers amongst us too, you have to understand, you have to go into the routine of vocal exercises, which may sometimes not look too pretty. All right, you exhale through your nose with an MR sound, and you repeat this 5 to 10 times to help correct your soft palate. Are everyone still with me? Can I hear yes from 2 people?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so you may be asked to do a presentation and you get a little tense, you get nervous, you're tense. And how do you eliminate that? Because like I explained earlier, sometimes you have a case where you get so nervous that you cut off the air, and you're not able to speak clearly. You have that tremor in your voice, there's a lots of nervousness, you get sweaty palm, you get sweaty armpits, and you don't come across necessarily as engaging as you would. Here are some tips that I would give you. Quiet your inner critic. It is okay to be nervous, it's not a bad thing. You have to know your subject matter, and the only time you know your subject matter is when you practice. So when I put together this presentation today, I had to go through my slides and practice. Okay, I had to practice. I've had a rule from I started broadcasting in 1999, and that rule is never to open the microphone on air without writing down what I'm going to say. And it is just being very cautious, because you can open the microphone and there's dead air. You don't know what you are going to say, you forget what you're going to say, and your thought they don't line up, because I'm thinking about everything. Even on radio, you have nervous moments because people are listening to you, and you want to be sure that you are pronouncing all your words, you're sounding engaging and entertaining, and that's where practice comes in. Breathe. The lung is there not just for you to fill it to say the words, but also to calm you down. Do your counting to 10, your deep breathing, and settle your nerves. And try to engage your audience by using icebreakers. And when I was learning to do voiceover, public speaking, not voiceover, public speaking, I was often told to imagine the people in the crowd, that all of them are in their underwear. And so you would not feel so vulnerable to the crowd. One thing that I try to do, and this is my go-to all the time: preparation. Know your subject matter and engage. Look at one person in the crowd and engage that person. If you know what you're going to say, there's no reason for you to second guess yourself. Do your deep breathing and connect with your audience. Breathlessness. You're speaking, you have a long sentence, and before you know it, your breath is cut off. One of the things that we practice in public speaking and broadcasting by extension, again, you see the word prepare comes up. Visualize and relax. This presentation is going the way it should go. I am engaging my audience. Notice I'm not monotone. My voice is raised. I'm engaged. I am energized. I am delivering my presentation to you. You're hearing what I'm saying clearly. Use shorter words. Instead of amazing, for example, if you think you have the ing problem, use great. You can substitute your words. Speak slower. You'd be surprised to know that when you take a pause, that the audience is still there, and it can, even if someone was distracted, it does bring the attention back to the podium, back to the microphone. Breathe from your diaphragm. Practice your breathing exercises. Hold your breath, count from 1 to 10, see how far you can go, and continue. It's like an athlete trying to make the time or beat the time. And again, engage your audience, because sometimes breathlessness is a result of nervousness. And I explained that early on. So use your icebreaker. Richard Strauss says the human voice is the most beautiful instrument of all, but it's the most difficult to play. And with that, we turn our attention to pitch, focus, resonance, and intonation. Now, I want to point out to you that there are overlaps with these terms. And you will see from the definition of some of them. Pitch is the highness or lowness of your voice. It's how high you raise your voice. Some persons can go very high and have a very high pitch. Persons are low pitch. Mostly females go with high pitch, and males go with a low bass pitch. How you can improve your how you can improve your pitch. And I can't stress this enough. If you are very serious about public speaking, and one of the things too, I interview a lot of persons back in the day when I was in management, and I find that even in listening to a person answer a simple question, they cannot deliver themselves properly because they are nervous and they run out of breath. Their voices crack. Voice training and developing confidence in how you speak is very crucial. You seek voice training, find a YouTube video, find a course online, get into a workshop that does voice training if you're very serious. Because persons or people usually pay attention to individuals who deliver themselves with confidence. Analyze your voice, record your voice and listen back. I did that for years. I've recorded my voice, even reading books, reading poetry, and listen back and critique. Even in the height of my career in radio, I would record my voice and listen back to it. If I'm reading the news, if I'm reading anything or I'm delivering something on the radio, I would ask for a tape and I would critique. Write down all the adjectives that you can find, that you can say, this is what I need to improve. And this is the only time you will become a critique. You will become a critic of your own self. You will critique yourself, I mean. So you get a chance to say, I need to work on this. My pitch need to be lower. My pitch need to be right there. This is where I'm comfortable speaking and I'm confident. I cannot stress the next one more. Reading out loud. Reading out loud is a topic that is going to come on down the road when we do this as I move forward. But reading out loud is a chance for you to work on several things. Reading out loud gives you confidence. You pronounce a word, you are hearing yourself. Get your, if you're using or you use a printed paper, I would suggest you use a printed paper with whatever you're reading so that you get your pencil and you mark those where you're going to put your emphasis, where you put your comma, your punctuation, where you're going to take a breath. The words you have problems pronouncing, you break those up in syllables so that you can pronounce the letters and you can practice the sound. Reading aloud is very important. Vary your voice range until you feel comfortable. Go in front of the mirror and read, and ask somebody to listen to you read, listen to you answer questions, pitch questions to you, give you a topic and let you speak from the topic without even doing any research. Improve your airflow. Again, the breathing comes back into it because we spoke about the role of the diaphragm and the role of the lung in making sure that that airstream comes straight up and we're able to do our form our words. Focus. Focus, it seems as if it does not belong in this line, but it does. Focus in this case means presence, being present. You are in the room, you are delivering, you are clear, you know the purpose of you being at the microphone or at the podium or in front of the class. Being present. And this is one strategy that you can use to deal with your tension or nervousness when you go to speak. Stand or sit with good posture. You don't go and you slouch over because you are crushing your diaphragm that you're supposed to use to get the airflow up so that you can speak. Pay attention with all your senses. You are there, you are feeling the room, you have a great speech prepared and you know what you're going to say. So experience the room, be in the environment, be present. Aim your energy outward. Make eye contact. And I said earlier, if even when you pause, if you're nervous, for example, and you're going on speaking and you continue to be nervous, sometimes you just need to pause. Trust the silence. It will bring the attention back to the room. Take a deep breath, make a joke. That's an icebreaker, and you up your presentation. Resonance and intonation. Resonance is the voice quality that results from sound vibrations in the larynx, the oral cavity, and the nasal cavity. See the throat, the mouth, and the nose. Intonation is the rise and fall of the voice in speaking or the accuracy of pitch. So I see some of them overlap. Now this is an intonation exercise. Yeah or yes, you're going to say, and I want somebody to join me in this. You're going to say neutral, which is yeah, falling, yeah, rising, yeah, enthusiastic, yeah, excited, yeah, super excited, yeah, uncertain, yeah, surprised, yeah, and disinterested, yeah. Can I have somebody to help me with this one?
Yeah. To be like, yeah. That's when you're
That's your
disinterested.
neutral?
No,
Is that your new?
disinterested. Yeah. No,
Okay.
that's not disinterested. Like you're like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. My neutral is
Uh-huh.
yeah. My falling, yeah. Rising, yay. Uh, enthusiastic, yes. Excited, yes. Super excited, yay. Uncertain, uh, yeah. Surprise, yeah. Disinterested, yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I get you. All right, that's good. So that is one practice. So if you're reading something, for example, and like I said, there are lots of different exercises you could do for all of these that I'm saying, but because of how we're connected, that you put yourself. I always say to myself that I am a personality, and that's why I think that's why they call us radio personalities, because when you're speaking, you have to find that personality. You have to find a comedian, for example, who goes up and MC or goes up and introduce a speaker and is extremely funny. They're not always funny every time. And so you have to put on that personality that you want when you're delivering your speech. And that helps with your confidence level. If you are comfortable with being a very outlandish, funny speaker, depending on place and time, again, if we're speaking about just being a public speaker, then you have to prepare yourself. So intonation exercises are very good. Now, articulation and pronunciation. And notice that word is not pronunciation. It's pronunciation. Articulation is the formation of clear and distinct sounds in speech. Oh, that person is so articulate. I like how you articulate yourself, okay, or you deliver yourself. Clear formation and distinct sounds in speech. Pronunciation refers to the ability to use the correctness of stress, rhythm, and intonation. You see, intonation comes back in there. Intonation of word in the spoken language. All right, so commonly mispronounced words: acoustic, adjective, adolescent, ballet, banana, barley, barometer. And there are lots of them you can find. Some persons, can I hear some commonly mispronounced words that people have challenges with? Anyone? I'm not seeing.
Certificate.
Certainly.
No, certificate.
Okay, certificate. Okay, another one. Somebody can give me another commonly mispronounced word. Okay, I'm not seeing the typing, so somebody has to read it for me.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. And some
And
people say
how is it
entrepreneur.
mispronounced?
Yeah, they
Entrepreneur.
pronounce it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, they say
Someone else?
entrepreneur, but it's not entrepreneur. It's French.
It's entrepreneur. Yeah. Any other word?
Someone types comfort.
Huh?
Someone type comfortable.
No, I'm not seeing. If you're typing, sorry, I'm not seeing.
This is Amanda.
Yes.
Second vice president. I'm speaking the words for you because you can't see. So,
okay.
Mr. Corey Walter has his hands up. Why, please, Corey?
Hold on a second. Okay, my screen is showing and I'm not seeing the other side. Okay. All right. Tell me again. I want to hear you.
Someone she wrote appreciate. Some person said pronounce that wrong.
Which word?
Appreciate.
Appreciate?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, yeah, because some people say appreciate, right? Let me see if I can get to the screen, because how do I get to your screen? I'm not seeing where I can get to the screen, you know. All right, but as I will continue. When I lower this, I can do some more of this commonly mispronounced words. All right. Let's jump back into it. So one of the things that Reading Out Loud does, and I would stress, because when I was doing voice and speech, by the way, I started radio before I started studying media and communication. And one of the things I had to get was a pronunciation dictionary. They do sell those. There's apps you can get on your phone that can help you with pronouncing words, and you can also get word games that you can expand your vocabulary. So it's very important. Diction. Diction is a style of speaking dependent on choice of words. Good diction, you look at for the accent, the inflection, the intonation, and the speech sound. All right. So when you talk about you have good diction, it's all of those components coming together: the accent, the inflection, and the intonation, and the speech sound. Improve your diction. You have tongue twisters. You know, you remember I said earlier that some persons have lazy tongue, that they are not able to pronounce words. The jaw, the mouth area is just lazy. I use my entire face when I speak sometimes, my entire mouth when I speak. And what I have done for years is to do a lot of tongue twisters. And it's a challenge, but you start out slow and you get to pronounce your words. You get to appreciate when words come in the same, or we call it alliteration, come in the same line, the S's, the THs and all of those, when they come at the INGs, if you're having problem pronouncing them, you can search online for tongue twisters and practice them. It will help to loosen up your jaw and your tongue and give you a greater appreciation for some words. And I said mouth movements before. Imitate good public speakers. I think one of the things that, I'm not saying that you're supposed to speak like them, but look at how they do their delivery. Look at how they tell stories. Stories are very important in public speaking. It sets the tone, it makes persons comfortable, and it's usually very engaging. And again, practice. Here we go again. Breathe, practice, practice, practice. Reading out loud, it develops a stronger vocabulary. I know my time is coming down. It improves diction and expression. It helps to develop your authentic voice, and it develops your speaking confidence. We spoke about pitch earlier. Which is it that you're comfortable in speaking? Are you speaking too high? You're speaking too low? It's like when you go to church and you're singing too high, you're singing out of key. It's important that when you're reading out loud, that you or you recognize the pitch that I'm comfortable with. This is what I will be sounding like when I do my public speaking. Calls for introduction, and this is the last slide. When you're making an introduction, I would recommend that you keep it brief. An introduction is not, and I've seen it from time to time, persons give introduction and they're not capable, or they're not able, or they're not prepared to contain themselves. Keep it brief, keep it appropriate, keep it accurate, keep it interesting. If you know you're going to introduce somebody, what you do is you prepare. Call the person up. Don't wait until they send you the bio. If they don't send you the bio, call them up. Find out what they're going to be presenting on, a little bit about their career, a little bit about their background, their interest, their likes, so you can put it in a written format. If you are also in a crowd, and I use this because sometimes you are at a corporate event and you are making an introduction, or you're introducing yourself, you need to have little caveats about your life, your experience, your background, your career, your education, what your interests are, so that you can engage someone else. And if you're doing a presentation, before you announce a speaker, if you have VIPs in the room, special invited guests which are on the program, you should acknowledge those persons as well. All right.